exciting conversation that we are going to have, because many people know that Ravneet is someone who is known for breaking the glass ceiling. But I'm not just talking about gender glass ceilings here, I'm also talking about the educational ones. So tell us about how you feel. Today, for example, Times Now Summit's entire theme has been India stoppable, unstoppable. What does that mean for you, and how are you going to be driving that vision of India unstoppable with Deakin University?
Great. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. My journey in international education is about more than 3 decades old. And I feel that when you think about India unstoppable, it is exactly what I feel over the 30 years that you experience. We are here a population where 27% of the Indians are in the age group of 15 to 29. And that is the demographic dividend that I think India is going to be absolutely proud of. The point that I'd like to make here is the importance of education and skilling in this country specifically, because of our demographic here, is if we are going to be making impact in the world, I think the first thing that we have to think about is how are we going to optimize this demographic dividend? What are we going to do to train the youth of this country that are going to have impact into the future? So I think I'm really excited. You know, we are a strong economy in India. It's a changing landscape, not just in education, but, across. We play a very important role in the sort of world stage at all forums. Recently, the G20 made us quite proud as well. So it is a strong base where we come from. The future is exciting enough, and I'm excited to be a part of that.
It's very interesting. You mentioned the 3-decade experience that you have. And of course, Deakin has been at the forefront of it, one of the pioneers in bringing about change in the educational landscape. But tell us how and why you think that you can make the students' experience, because you've been speaking about the demography and how that is one of the biggest dividends that you have, especially here in India. How are you going to make this journey special for the students?
Look, I think student experience is one of the most important parts of university and school education. If you actually look at universities around the world, there is a specific rating criteria that is called student experience. And that dovetails across all the aspects, which is use of technology in education, which means the pedagogy, which means the curriculum development, which means internationalization, which means, how the student has gained over the 3 years. It's not just a piece of paper at the end of the day. And the rating actually tells you where you stand on the international stage. And I think that's where it's really important to ensure whatever we do in India, whatever we bring to India from overseas, or whatever we do in India with India, the student experience is in the center of it. The student, in my view, is the learner in the center of the entire, sort of sphere that you are operating in. And we should not forget that they are the real customers, and we should do things that we need to do to make them, sort of pioneers and future leaders. At Deakin University, for example, we've had a 5-star rating for the last 15 years consecutively. And we've been a university that has dealt with, technology and its impact into the future quite intensely, even much before COVID.
What are some of the parameters that you're discussing when the students rate the university?
It's not just the students. There are also agencies that rate the university. Mm-hmm. Students rate the university by their a list, but I think there are agencies that rate the universities based on new age pedagogy, new age technology, what you're looking at into the future. How are you preparing the youth for the jobs of tomorrow? I think that is also an important part of an internationalization, gender balance, diversity, inclusion. All of these things are extremely important on world stage. in terms of the rankings of universities.
There seem to be shared goals, because even in the National Education Policy of 2020, some of the aims that you have right now highlighted, for example, inclusivity and also internationalization of education, that's also part of it. If you can just explain to us, what would that entail if there are, for example, Indian universities who want to bring in the next, or rather go into the next level of tech education, tech-enabled education? If you can also specifically talk about AI-enabled education, what would that be, and what would your advice be?
Look, I think the NEP has actually transformed the education system over the 35 years. For 35 years, India did not really look at the pedagogy and the change in the education system. NEP actually brought that into light. And I think that the 5 key elements of NEP, which is internationalization, inclusivity, use of technology, I think looking at industry collaboration, and I think focusing on engaging, with stakeholders to have impact. I think those are the key elements, and curriculum development, I think also with international partnerships. I think those are the elements that have made India be able to collaborate internationally. I mean, having been in this field for 3 decades, I realized that only after NEP have we been able to have real engagement with Indian institutions. Because previously, there was no credit possible between institutions. There was no mobility possible between institutions. But today, it's become mandatory for every Indian institution, especially in the top 100, that they do need to think beyond where their comfort zone is. They have to think about, how do I make this use of technology as part of my curriculum development? How do I keep internationalization not just as a division that's going to look at where the future is, but it is in the DNA of where I'm sitting. And it has given confidence to foreign universities, Meghna, to come into India and do joint degrees, do joint partnerships. I mean, at Deakin University today, for the matter, we have got about 300 students that are studying in different partner institutions on a joint program. So this was not heard of. So I really compliment India on the NEP, and I think that the NEP is transformational. It is also focusing on the end product of what does the student need to do. Also the flexibility of skilling into education. Education is not just knowledge, it is a combination of how you bring in skilling into the education. All of that together does make NEP quite attractive to India.
And it's very interesting, because one of the things that you had talked about is internationalization of education, and it would be very exciting times for you, Ravneet, isn't it? After all, the Australian Prime Minister has announced that the first ever Deakin University campus is coming up right here in India, in Gujarat to be precise. And many congratulations for that. I'm sure that you're really looking forward to it. Educational initiatives, breakthroughs, of course, is something that we are going to be expecting. But also, talk us through how you want to bring in some of the cultural confluence as well through education.
Look, education is something that is the most important aspect when you look at the horizontal things at play. So, Gift City campus for Deakin University, world's first international campus in India, Deakin's first international campus anywhere in the world. Today, as we celebrate that, is actually also a combination of our journey in India over the 30-year period. So, our focus has been in India, with India, for India. And primarily, that has brought together, the confluence of this campus, in my mind. The campus, and you will hear the finance minister speak after that, is actually her brainchild. She actually initiated the SEZ zone within Gift City for international universities to set up their campus in their own right, which means that we are governed by the rules of Australian education and rules of Australian system in operative in India. And this particular campus is in the midst of Gift City, which does trading of more than $50 billion a day. There are 27 large international banks and insurance companies, 250 companies in all in the setup. So for a university that wants to operate in an economy like India, this is gold.
To be in the midst of it all, in the very hub
of it all. The two courses that we are going to run there are Masters of Cybersecurity and Masters of Business Analytics. And we've had companies, banks, fintech centers from world over come and talk to us about how we can partner to co-deliver, co-develop, and co-engage the youth into jobs of the future.